position of privilege. Some people only watch this show because they know me from my Guardian columns, and I've got to give them something, right? That was literally it for the series.
I liked it when you were talking about Kronos' cock earlier.
OK, joining us to discuss free speech, please welcome journalist and former barrister Afua Hirsch. So what do you all think? I mean, what do you think, Afua? There's a lot of pressure now on the idea of free speech, isn't there? It's kind of been weaponised by the far right. Is there a point where we say it has to be qualified in some way?
Well, I am very relieved that we have it so that you can make jokes about divine fallacies, because that would be really sad if you weren't free to do so. I do think it's really ironic, the whole free speech debate, because the faction of society who are most vocal about allowing speech that many people consider offensive are also the first group to show their fragility when things that they don't like are said. So, for example, Jon Snow, the Channel 4 news presenter, made an observation of fact that there were a disproportionate number of white people in a pro-Brexit rally and had to apologise for offending white people by pointing out the fact that they exist. And it was so ironic to see the people who wanted that apology being the same ones who always defend speech against minorities and say that it's political correctness gone mad when you're shut down for abusing people because of their ethnicity or faith. And what I often hear is people who have power and privilege and used to being able to say whatever they want about whoever they want, suddenly getting very upset that they feel power is being taken away from them and distributed more equally, so that free speech is something that everyone is entitled to, but also has to have boundaries. We recognise that. We've got libel and slander laws to protect people from things that are completely untrue being said about them. And I do think it affects people differently. I mean, I just accept that we live in a society where if you look like me and say things that some people don't want to hear, you get a lot of abuse. But I do think a lot of people of colour, people from minorities, find that the way that free speech is currently organised means they're often alone in a space where they're being attacked against a majority who are attacking them. And so it's not a fair marketplace and it's not free.
Awkward as it is to face up to the kind of absolute nature of free speech, is that if it's going to be a moral principle, it has to be universal. So if you're going to say, well, one person can't be offended, then you've got to say everybody can't be offended, you know? And so suddenly you're saying, well, people who are anti-abortion in America, we can't say stuff that'll offend them because to them we're talking about infanticide, you know?
I don't think there's anything wrong with people being offended. I mean, free speech is completely meaningless if you can't say things that offend people. If everyone said nice stuff all the time, we wouldn't need free speech. We need it because people say things that other people don't want to hear. But is it free? Can everyone really contest their ideas equally? Because you'll find that it's not. And so it's interesting to me that the people who defend this free marketplace of ideas aren't the ones actually trying to open up the marketplace to make sure everyone has a say. They're enjoying their monopoly.
It's often the case with the free market.
Yeah, funny that.
That's the thing, when people say, look, people are so quick to take offence these days. Oh, everyone's offended at everything these days. You think, well, do you know what? It's because you're hearing from different people you didn't used to hear from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. People have got a platform they didn't used to have. And so what you were saying is, years ago, I didn't have to listen to any objections to what I'm saying, and now I've got to listen to some objections, and I've got to think about what I said, and I've got to justify what I said.
Or sometimes I think it's just confronting that you didn't notice. Sometimes being a white person, it didn't even occur to me. I was just using my soap, having a great day.
Liam Neeson recently caused outrage when he revealed that he once, as a young man, went on the hunt for a black person to beat up out of anger over the rape of a friend. He actually used the words, and he did air quotes, he went, "a black bastard." I don't know that air quotes help. In this earnest interview on the glossy Good Morning America, he tries to contextualise his actions.
And it really shocked me, this primal urge I had. It shocked me and it hurt me. I did seek help. I went to a priest. I heard my confession. I was reared a Catholic. I had two very, very good friends that I talked to. And believe it or not, power walking.
Power walk.
Yeah, 2 hours every day.
You can
to get rid of this. And I'm not racist. This was nearly 40 years ago.
I mean, do we even believe that it happened? I mean, are we to really believe that he went looking for a fight in 1970s Belfast and couldn't find one?
grateful that we now know that power walking is a cure for racism, because who knew?
But I mean, he was just power walking like, I gotta get a black bastard.
I found out about that. So I was deeply troubled. I spoke to someone, a priest, who said, it's fine. That's his job. It's literally, Jesus forgives you. It's so difficult to process because someone's saying, I used to be racist, and I realise what triggered it off and what shouldn't have been there, and this underlying feeling that blamed a race for an individual's act. All of that is absolutely fine, but then it being contorted by the media and everyone talking about it is the damaging thing.
But that's exactly it. It could have been an honest admission where he said, I had these thoughts and I've analysed them and this is where they come from. They come from living in a racialised society that's implanted these ideas. They come from a media that does racialise a whole group for the wrongdoing of one person. But he didn't do any of that.
No.
He just said, I went to my priest and I did some power walking and now it's
super cool. Like, I think he thought he was being super woke at the time about like, hey guys, I've had some racist thoughts. And I mean, admittedly, when he did that, I was like, one of them finally admitted it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, you know? But part of the KKK's background was about protecting white femininity, right? You know, so he's literally falling into that same kind of propaganda that he didn't actually sort of expose or recognize. So it's kind of one of those wonderful teachable moments.
I mean, to be fair to Liam Neeson, like, because he's from Northern Ireland, that might be the nicest anecdote that he has. Moving on. Former EDL leader Tommy Robinson has made a career out of claiming that his right to free speech is being curtailed. In this tense and unpredictable ABC profile, we can see that the citizens of Luton are still angered by Tommy's opinions.
Definitely feel there's more tension in the air now that we're walking through here.
Yeah, of course. Luton's a very divided town.
You were here when you walked through.
I was the leader, mate, I was.
That's racist.
No, it's not, Bob, no.
Why do you think it's racist? Oh dear, what was that? What did they just say to you?
Pussy.
Oh God, I don't know if this is a good idea.
It was clear that Robinson's past would not be quickly forgotten or forgiven.
Don't point your camera at me, I'll break your camera, I'm telling you. Go on, then you got something to say.
What are you got something to say?
Come here, hey, fuck you.
What are you got to say? Huh?
Oh God. Oh God. No. Oh, God.
What do you mean?
Say something then.
Pussy. Go on.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm lucky to slot from that, Bob.
You think he'd have learned how to walk backwards in prison?
And also, the amount of power walking he must have done in his time as well.
Hasn't cured him yet.
His whole mob, they're all about Muslim grooming gangs. There's a lot of sex criminals involved in the far right.
Yeah, the thing that went on with Rotherham and the flaws in the system that allowed that to happen should legitimately be criticised, but it's being criticised along a race line by racists.
I do find it really hard to take seriously that Tommy Robinson and the EDL really care about the vulnerable girls who were abused in that and other scandals, because there are really serious problems that led to them being abused. But they only seem to be interested in exploiting it to push this agenda that Muslims are problematic as a presence in Britain, instead of actually looking at how you can safeguard vulnerable children. You know, they're only interested in this minority. And then they try to create a narrative that all Muslims need to be held accountable for the actions of these paedophiles in 1 or 2 towns. We never talk about white paedophiles, even though the majority of paedophiles are white. And it's frustrating when he's given a platform in the mainstream to promote that, because it's not legitimate debate. I think we've got to a really dangerous position where now, if someone like me who's anti-racist and anti-racism is in a debate, there's this need to put me on against a racist, as if racism is like a legitimate opinion. You know, and it's not. If we were talking about rape, if we were talking about the problem of rape, you wouldn't have me on with a pro-rape activist. We accept that pro-rape is not a legitimate stance. But when it comes to racism, pro-racism now apparently is like so normalised that I find myself having to debate people who are openly and overtly racist. And I think it's really worrying because it does send a message that these two positions are equal. Then we just have a healthy debate.
And presumably it's less about balance and it's more about entertainment value.
There is
because
that. Because it's clickbait.
It's also monetizable now to have these views. You know, the people with social media and stuff like that, if you've got 200,000 Twitter followers or something like that, you can monetize that. And there's certain people who literally just say outlandish things for clicks and follows.
That's kind of
And the people,
contrarians.
exactly, contrarians. It's the attention economy. If you take away the money from them having those opinions, you take away one of the pillars that holds up the type of views we're talking about.
So, divisive political situations mean we have protesters exercising their right to free speech outside Parliament on a daily basis. Here's some shaky phone footage featuring MP Damien Green, who doesn't appreciate hearing from the public in such a direct fashion.
Hello, can I ask how you're feeling about the vote yesterday?
No, you can't, because you just tried to shout over an interview I've done like you do everyone else.
I didn't. I was singing.
You are the biggest wanker.
Oh, hello. Is that a bit of abuse this morning? What, you just called me a wanker?
I think that was a piece of analysis, political analysis of Christ.
So people barrack in politicians. The politicians get very annoyed. But part of me thinks, well, that's part and parcel of being a politician. That is people expressing themselves. It is kind of free speech. And at the same time, the politicians feel that that's harassment. And there's a line, isn't there?
I think when you're bombarded with something a lot, you shouldn't just have to go, yeah, you have to be nice and polite to people who are interrupting interviews and following you down the street with a phone in your face. I do think that's an infringement.
And also, it's real life, so it's frightening.
Although, how does he get off calling the other guy a wanker? Wasn't he the one who got sacked for porn on his computer? Clearly, he was the wanker, right?
He was caught by a Furby.
He's actually a good example of the problem of free speech, because when that happened, when he was accused of lying to the House of Commons and then he resigned, and all of these grandees lined up to defend him and say, well, it might look like he did this bad thing, but I know him to be a person of excellent character. And when you look at a student protester on the left, for example, who's accused of something, they don't have all of these big people lining up saying, well, even so, I know that they're a good person. It's just totally unequal. So someone like Damien Green has a level of resilience. But I do think MPs are in a slightly strange situation because part of their job is to be accessible, you know, and I think that people in power need to be treated with respect. Otherwise, they can't do their job. We need to have access to them, and we can't do it if they're constantly afraid.
Was that the Stop Brexit guy there? The guy who shouts Stop Brexit over every interview?
Yes.
That's,
with the long poles.
Look, fair play to him, but also fair play to Damien Green. I think both of them, can admit they're probably a bit of a wanker. So I think that's rather a nice democratic exchange between them.
Well, that's the end of the show. Thanks to my guests, Sarah Pascoe, Richard Osman, Desiree Birch and Efwa Hirsch. But before I go, I'd like to leave you with this thought. I've often been rude about David Cameron, but in many ways he sums up the British spirit. He realised something would be difficult, so he gave up. It's Theresa May who has decided to initiate a staring contest with the unblinking third eye of madness. Yet Theresa May still has one final opportunity to win me over, the way she chooses to leave. She could be the first modern leader to do it with proper class. Imagine how we'd rally as a nation if she were to grasp that lectern and bang out the piercing, grief-stricken aria from Madame Butterfly. And as we wept for the infinite possibilities of what she and all of us could have been, the note would climb, the pitch rising continually upwards, cracking the lenses in Robert Peston's glasses, drowning out the anguished cries of the children who live in the walls of the Houses of Parliament. I've never believed there is a paedophile ring at Westminster. It's probably more of a queue. The note rising until May's eyes roll back to become just whites as it escapes the range of human perception and summons the Dolphin King. As an acolyte rests an iridescent cape upon her trembling shoulders, she steps from the riverside terrace of Parliament onto the Dolphin King's back, and as he takes her off up the Thames, she rams a golden flute into his blowhole to play I Did It My Way. No doubt she'll actually just stand in her walk-in fridge screaming for a week and then get a book deal. Oh well, good night.
We're back with Frankie next Thursday at 10 here on BBC Two Wins. And for more light relief, Matt Berry offers his unique take on Brexit in his one-off comedy special to mark the passing of the Article 50 deadline. Road to Brexit is on iPlayer now.